What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to the FreeMelon Society. My name's Eli Martyr. Today we're going to be talking about, oh my goodness, burning fat. Burning fat. One of the main issues that's on everybody's minds in the health and nutrition world. We seem to be beset by the ubiquitous problem of weight loss and fat loss in particular. How do I lose weight? How do I burn fat? Look, guys, I live in Toronto, okay? If you want to see a dramatic demonstration of the obesity problem, just come to Toronto, go to a busy shopping mall. Most people are walking around as brimful storehouses of thronged masses of pathological fatty tissue, choking the vitality from their desperate bodies, right? It's sad. And there is something we can do about it, okay? It's not a very difficult approach, but the approach that has now come in vogue is one that advises you against the consumption of carbohydrate-rich food. Look, I don't need to go into it. You know about this. There's a whole low-carbohydrate ketogenic diet craze, the carnivore diet craze, the protein-rich diet fanaticism. Okay, so all this has popped up in recent years. There's a very popular book called The Obesity Code. It's written by Jason Fung, and he's been really, helpful in disseminating this idea that insulin is the bad guy. Insulin is your primary fat storage hormone. That's what insulin does, among other roles, but that's its main one. This is the idea promulgated in Obesity Code. And that sugars and refined carbohydrates spike your insulin levels. And this spiking of insulin levels is the cause of our troubles, or is one of the causes of our troubles. And the book is good about advising you against processed food. Okay, processed food is bad. Everybody understands that, regardless of what camp you're in diet and nutrition world. Okay, everybody understands that. But there's this undeserved condemnation of the phenomenon of insulin spiking being the problem, being the crux of the problem, and carbohydrate-rich food that causes insulin spikes needs to be eliminated from the diet to avoid this problem. There's also the idea that's put forth that in order to burn fat, it is incumbent on you to drain your muscles and to drain your liver of all the glycogen and keep them that way, so that glycogen is but a distant memory from the tissues that it once called home. Your glycogen has to be completely depleted, and you need to be in a low carbohydrate state, because it's only in that low carbohydrate state that your body will not burn sugar. Okay, sugar for fuel, it'll burn fat, right? Your storehouse of energy. The current stream of literature also suggests that because your diet should consist of low carbohydrate foods, then they advise you to eat lots of highly proteinaceous foods and lots of fats, oils and fish and eggs and all sorts of fatty foods. They say that this should make up the bulk of your diet, and that carbohydrates are on the lower end. So today we're going to talk about why that's not the case and why doing so is probably not advantageous to your health. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into today's lesson. Okay, first thing we'll do quickly is we'll just talk about why high protein diets are not the best idea for weight loss. First problem with high protein diets is the formation of toxic byproducts associated with protein metabolism and protein breakdown. The chemical constituents of all of our macronutrients, okay, so we have carbohydrates, we have fats, and we have protein, and they're all made of essentially the same stuff: carbohydrates, hydrogen, and oxygen. It's only the protein macronutrient category that has a nitrogen group associated with the carbohydrates, the hydrogens, and the oxygens. That nitrogenous group, that nitrogenous body that's attached to proteins, your body needs to get rid of that, labor to get rid of that. And in so doing, it creates toxic byproducts. Okay, so it's that nitrogen group that is pesky. And in order to get it out of the system, okay, your body needs to labor. So in breaking down proteins into their constituent amino acid parts, When your body has to process these for absorption, it results in a byproduct called ammonia. And ammonia is very, very, very toxic to the system. So your body needs to neutralize this toxic ammonia. And through an intricate process, it converts it. I'm not going to get into it, but it converts that ammonia into urea. And then the urea can be safely eliminated from the system as urine. So if you challenge your body with high amounts of protein in the diet, then you cause your body to have to tax its resources to neutralize this ammonia. And if it's sufficiently overburdened, then at some point your body stops being able to keep up with the amount of work you're giving it, and you get into an acidotic condition. Your tissues become more acidic. Ammonia is highly toxic to the brain. And so in order to safeguard your brain and your tissues from this toxic ammonia, the body needs to neutralize this stuff. Many different types of amino acids are sulfur-containing amino acids. Amino acids like cysteine and methionine, for example. So these contain sulfur. In processing these amino acids, sulfuric acid is the byproduct. And so the sulfur-containing amino acids also create this other type of acid that needs to be buffered by the body's resources. Another problem with high-protein diets is they're dehydrating. So the process I just talked about, the whole buffering of acids, whether it's sulfuric acid from the sulfur-containing amino acids, or if it's the production of ammonia and urea from other amino acids, okay? All these acids require buffering, and they also require water, a lot of water, in order to buffer the acids associated with them. And so if you're eating a high-protein diet, not only are you creating all these toxic byproducts that do a lot of damage, especially over time, but you're losing water constantly because you need more water to deal with buffering these acids, right? Water is the universal solvent, okay? So if you want to make a solution more neutral, well, then you dilute it with water, right? So your body has to do the same thing. So you get more dehydrated, which has a cascade of negative effects. And of course, you have other negative effects from acidosis. Another problem with protein is that it's a very inefficient fuel source. It's very difficult for your body to use protein as fuel, okay, as energy to burn, because there are byproducts associated with doing so. It's not an easy operation. Your body does not want to do it. But if you insist on eating only protein and fat-rich foods, your body will be forced to use proteins as a fuel source and thus incur all the problems that we just talked about. So it's a dirty fuel source, whereas carbohydrates burn clean. Carbon dioxide and water being the byproducts of carbohydrate digestion, right? Yeah, and then some cellulose and some insoluble fibers. So protein is a dirty fuel source. High protein diets put a huge risk on your kidneys as well, because your kidneys have to filter out all these acids, and over time that can wear on them. Okay, the acids burn, they cause inflammation. Inflammation is another reason why high protein diets are not great for you, because they cause inflammation over time. Okay, so let's talk about glycogen control and why none of this is necessary. Why it's not necessary that you need to go low carbohydrate in order to burn fat, and why you don't need to subject yourself to these silly diets that are highly unnatural in terms of human physiology, where you're forcing yourself to find high protein, high fat foods, right? Carbohydrate rich foods are much more intuitive, much more natural for the human body. So you don't need to think this way in order to burn fat effectively. So, it might be tempting to think that fat loss only occurs in a state of complete glycogen depletion and that high protein diets ensure this happens, but yeah, it's not the case. So what is glycogen? Glycogen is a storage form of sugars in your body. It's a storage form of carbohydrate in your body. Just like starch, like in a potato or something, is a storage form of energy in a plant. In your body, your storage form of energy is glycogen. You can store glycogen primarily in your muscle and in your liver. You can store approximately, if I'm not mistaken, 5 times more glycogen in your muscles than you can in your liver. you're looking around, and this, give or take between individuals, but average person, average weight, you're looking around 1,800 calories from glycogen, all right, in total. Okay, now here's the important part. And I've talked previously on my channel about how exercise is not an effective way to go about losing weight. Meaning that if you want to lose weight, if you want to lose fat, the most effective way to lose fat is not through exercise. Is not to premise your approach primarily on the element of exercise. The primary element that you use to focus your attention in terms of weight loss is diet. 100%. Okay. Diet is where the battle is waged. Okay. In weight loss. Exercise is a wonderful supplement, is a wonderful addition to and a complement to the prime focus of diet. And pairing those two together will give you wonderful success. So you wouldn't want to focus on exercise and not change as much with the diet. It's the complete opposite approach. All right. However, understanding something about glycogen control and maintaining your glycogen control with exercise, with activity, can really help you navigating this weight loss problem. When you are exercising, okay, and here's the key here. When you are exercising, you are burning anywhere from, well, we can go as low as 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 to 60% of the energy that you use for exercise is going to come from fat. Obviously, there's variance here in terms of which type of exercise you're doing, how long you go. Low intensity, long duration activity would burn in the higher ranges of fat, so from like the 40 to 60% range. Higher intensity, lower duration types of activity, then you'd probably be in the lower range. So from like 10 to 20% of the calories that you use for that activity would come from fat. According to Clinical Sports Medicine in 1984, there's a study called The Role of Fat Metabolism in Exercise, and we see it here in the abstract. Fatty acid oxidation can contribute 50 to 60% of the energy expenditure during a bout of low-intensity exercise of long duration, and strenuous submaximal exercise requiring 65 to 80% of VO2 max will utilize less fat, 10 to 45% of the energy expended. So what does that mean? It means that every single time you use your glycogen stores, okay, every time you exercise, every time you do something, your body will be burning some fat. Now, if your diet does not include a high amount, an excessive amount of fat in the diet, okay, so we're talking about the classic 80-10-10 approach, right? Then it means that every time you go to do some exercise and you deplete glycogen, so this is what we're talking about when we say glycogen control. When you deplete some glycogen with exercise, your body is going to be burning fat in that depletion of glycogen. And so if you're not eating concentrated fats in the diet, that means that you will be burning fat and not putting it on, right? So you'll be taxing fat from your body, but not adding more to it, because the majority of the food that you're eating is carbohydrate-rich food. Now, the other thing to understand here is that your body under normal conditions will not will not convert carbohydrate to fat. It's very, very reluctant to do that. And it's not going to do that. It's not even going to start doing that until you are in like the 3,000 calorie plus range over what your body needs for the day before it even starts to very inefficiently add fat to your body from carbohydrate. So it'll start to do it, but it'll still be very inefficient at doing it. Your body does not want to do that because it takes more energy to convert carbohydrate to fat than to simply just burn it off. So here's the thing about carbohydrate and the glycogen stores in your body and burning fat. If your glycogen reserves in your muscle and your liver are topped up completely, they're filled to the brim, and you do no exercise, no activity, nothing, so you're not using any of the stored carbohydrate, what happens when you eat more carbohydrate on top of the glycogen that you have in your muscle and your liver? Okay. That excess amount, like I just finished saying, is going to be simply burned. And what will happen is you won't be adding fat to your body. You will just prevent your body from burning fat. Okay. So you will stop your body from using its own fat stores as fuel when you eat in excess of your needs and your glycogen stores are topped off. So that's the only issue with carbohydrates in terms of gaining fat. You won't gain fat. You will burn carbohydrate, but you just won't tax any of your fat stores. The only way to really effectively put on fat is to eat fat. You need to eat fats in order to put on fat. Now, of course, carbohydrates are misunderstood because fat is very often mixed into carbohydrate and refined carbohydrate food as a staple. We cook carbohydrates in fats and oils. Okay, we process them in our processed food with fats and oils. And then we think that carbohydrates make you fat. No, you store the fats and you burn the carbohydrate. When you eat a refined carbohydrate food that has fat in it, and let's say you're in that topped up glycogen state where your glycogen reserves are full and you're not doing any exercise, what happens when you go and eat processed carbohydrate food that has fat in it? What happens is your body says, I'm going to store the fat immediately because that's what it does. And I'm going to burn preferentially the carbohydrates. Your body prefers carbohydrate. It prefers to burn carbohydrate. And it's always going to do that. And when fat comes in with that carbohydrate, it's going to just immediately store the fat and then burn the carbohydrate.
We are carbohydrate burning organisms. Our mitochondria burn glucose, not fats. And these will not turn into fat. They cannot turn into fat. The body is not going to blow apart a glucose ring, grab those carbon fragments, and string them out in this long-chain fatty acid. It doesn't work like that. You eat a bunch of starch, you have a couple of baked potatoes for dinner without a bunch of fat, you will replete the sugar stored in your muscles, and once your glycogen stores are all filled up, you'll burn that excess calories off as heat. You'll stick your foot out from the covers at night, you'll throw the covers off, and your body temperature go up 1/4 degree, and you burn it off to heat. Carbohydrates will not turn into fats, so have some, especially lunches and dinners, and this is how you get healthy nutrients without putting on weight. It's clean burning. It turns into carbon dioxide that you breathe off and water that you pee out. Starches are a clean burning fuel. No, they won't make you fat. 1 billion Chinese used to know that. If you're trying to lose weight and you're frustrated, I've been vegan for 5 years and I'm still carrying on this weight. What's the problem, doc? This food makes me fat. What's happening, your doctor doesn't know this, but now you will, and people at home will. This phenomenon called oxidative priority. In other words, it's easier for your body to burn sugar than burn fat. Okay? It's easier to burn glucose than metabolize these long-chain fats. So what? Well, if you eat sugar and fat at the same time, you'll burn the sugar and store the fat for later. Okay? It's a primitive survival mechanism to get you through famines. You will burn sugar and store the fat for later. So what does that mean? You want to be a fat vegan? Pour oil on your pasta. You will burn the sugar in the pasta, you'll store the fat in the oil. Almond butter and jelly sandwich, you'll burn the sugar in the bread and the jelly, you will store the fat in the nut butter. Put earth balanced margarine on your baked potato. You will burn the sugar in the starchy potato, you will store the fat in the margarine. It's that sugar-fat combo that's sticking to you. And if I have an obese vegan in front of me, they're eating oil and flour products without question. And they're eating them together. So what do? I mean, I can't eat potatoes? No, you can eat potatoes, but don't put oil on it, put salsa on it. Put something non-oily on your starches and you'll burn the starches cleanly. They won't turn into fat. When the paleo folks say carbs make you fat, no they don't. The potato you're eating with the steak makes you store the fat in the steak. It's the fat that's in the meat that you're storing, not the carbohydrates that have turned into fat. That's why they don't want to eat carbs, because it makes them store the fat in the meat. Again, now this is just for the weight loss. So if you're already a lean vegan, none of this matters. You put a little whatever you want on whatever you want, it doesn't matter. But if you're trying to lose weight, avoid this fat sugar combo. That's what's sticking to you. Well, how about walnuts and avocados? I mean, you can have those, but put them on your salad. Put it on your broccoli, okay? You'll burn it cleanly and it won't stick to you.
So now what happens when you deplete your glycogen stores a little bit, then in that case, if you're eating a high carbohydrate diet, what will happen is you eat this high carbohydrate diet. It replenishes your glycogen stores. The exercise burns fat, burns your own body's fat stores. And because what you've eaten did not contain fat, you will not put on more fat. So you will be effectively, by eating a high carbohydrate diet and doing just general types of exercise, okay? Just be an active person, be a healthy person, just be a normal, natural person, okay? So by doing that and eating this high carbohydrate diet, you will be slowly burning your own body's fat stores more and more and more and more every day until you get to where your body's set point for how much fat it wants to carry is attained. And it will be effortless. Where we start messing things up is when we start eating, either consciously or unconsciously, fat. Concentrated, processed, refined fats in the diet, and concentrated, processed, refined fats in conjunction with carbohydrates, which messes things up. There was a book in the 80s published called Eat to Win, a book called Eat to Win by a guy named Robert Haas. And this is where I originally learned about a bunch of this stuff. And it's a great book. It's just that there are a lot of things in the book that aren't optimized for people that are looking after health as a priority. It's more so focused for high-performing athletes. And so, yeah, anyway, there's elements to the book that you would want to steer away from if true unburdened health is your priority. Okay, but it's a great book, and it's where I got introduced to the glycogen control thing. In the book, they talk about the rule of 200, where you want to burn at least 200 calories from glycogen. So if you can do exercise day to day, where you at least deplete 200 calories worth of glycogen from your muscles or from your liver, okay, and you eat a high carbohydrate diet, then you will effortlessly be losing fat. Okay, because as long as your glycogen is depleted, then your body won't be in that state where it says, I've just got to burn carbohydrates and not burn any body fat, right? That is why the depletion of the glycogen is important and what we're talking about when we say glycogen control. The diet will help to simply replenish those glycogen stores, and the exercise that you did to incur that glycogen depletion will have burned fat. And because no more excess fat is coming from the outside, you will be constantly chipping away at the fat stores that you have stored in your body already. It's only when we start getting into taking in fat from the outside that we're going to be effectively storing fat in our bodies. And this is why you can effortlessly eat a high carbohydrate diet, a whole food carbohydrate diet, not a refined carbohydrate diet, okay? Don't get the wrong idea. A proper whole food carbohydrate diet. You pair that with a reasonable amount of exercise as a human being, you will effortlessly lose weight, body fat, okay, and become healthier. Conventionally, we talk about intermittent fasting being very helpful, and of course it is, right? It is very helpful, because the amount of time between meals allows your body to burn off some of that glycogen, right? So intermittent fasting, it can be a very, very, very helpful tool. It's just that you don't need to get obsessive about intermittent fasting and low carbohydrates, right? Because we have this mindset that we need to be completely glycogen depleted before our body accesses the fat stores. So that is the reason why I'm making this video, is because I want to get people away from that thinking, because it's wrong. It's incorrect. You don't need to be completely depleted of glycogen and existing in a state of no muscle glycogen for your body to use body fat. No, that is not correct. Your body will burn fat, even if you are eating tons of carbohydrate in the day. So long as you have that glycogen control, right? You do some activity that depletes your glycogen, okay? Your body will burn fat in the process, and then your diet will replenish the carbohydrate stores, and you will be chipping away at that fat, and Bob's your uncle. I don't know if you know what that expression means, Bob's your uncle. It just means, and that's that, okay? It's a North American expression. Bob's your uncle. Where does Bob's your uncle come from? I have no idea. Anyway, that's that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe to the FreeMelon Society. I hope you learned something today. Subscribe to the channel if you like videos like this. I will have more coming up, obviously. And yeah, you guys enjoy the day, and we'll see you on the next one. Okay, take care, guys.